Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm Aaron Maté, sitting in for Jimmy. And here is the headline from the New York Times: House Republicans preparing broad inquiry into FBI and security agencies. So the rebellious members of Congress from the Republican Party, among the concessions that they won as a condition of giving Kevin McCarthy their vote for the House Speaker, they won a commitment to form a new committee to investigate the intelligence agencies. And somebody who knows a lot about that is a guy named Kash Patel. And here's a headline from the Washington Post about Kash. It's from David Ignatius, who's a columnist very close with U.S. intelligence agencies. And it's called "How Kash Patel Rose from Obscure Hill Staffer to Key Operative in Trump's Battle with the Intelligence Community." And Kash Patel became widely known after, as a member of the House Intelligence Committee, he uncovered a series of FBI abuses in the Trump-Russia investigation, including their reliance on the Steele dossier and the fact that they were hiding the fact that the Clinton campaign was paying for it, and that the FBI was lying to the FISA court in using the Steele dossier for surveillance warrants on Carter Page. So even though David Ignatius is very critical of Kash Patel, this is what he had to say about him in his column. Kash Patel sometimes hit pay dirt. He was the main author of a January 2018 House Intel report recounting abuses by the FBI in its application for electronic surveillance of former Trump campaign aide Carter Page. Though Democrats at the time were reluctant to agree, facts that emerged later showed serious abuses in the Page investigation, and a former FBI lawyer pleaded guilty to falsifying information. So let's bring in Kash Patel to talk about his experience with investigating the FBI and what he wants to see out of this new House committee that is doing the same. Kash Patel is a former senior official in the Trump administration, serving as the senior director for counterterrorism at the National Security Council and as chief of staff to the acting secretary of defense. Previously, he was a top investigator on the House Intelligence Committee, where he exposed serious intelligence misconduct in the Trump-Russia probe. And previously, he served as a national security official and federal public defender under the Obama administration, and is the author of the forthcoming book, Government Gangsters: The Deep State, the Truth, and the Battle for Our Democracy. Kash Patel, welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. Great to see you.
Hey, Aaron, it's great to be back with you. It's been some time, but I'm glad we're still covering these important matters for America.
A lot to discuss. So talk to us about this new House committee. What do you expect out of it, and what do you want to see out of it?
Yeah, it's really important to understand the dynamics. So what Congress could have done was implement a select committee like they did for, say, 9/11, or they did for Benghazi or things like that. And I think what the negotiations whittled it down to, and in my opinion, it's the right approach, rather than standing up an entire new external operation, they placed a subcommittee under the Judiciary Committee called the Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. And it's embedded with all the powers that any committee would have: subpoena powers, document collection, witnesses, and things like that, and oversight over every government agency that exists. So I think the structure is right. Now it's just what lines of effort are they going to go down, and what authorities are they going to use to collect the information? But most importantly, like when we did Russiagate, how are they going to get that information out to the public? Because it doesn't matter what committee you stand up. If they do everything behind closed doors and it's never revealed, or everything is redacted, then it's utterly useless, and it doesn't count as constitutional congressional oversight. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and we will see how much and what they produce. But they got a lot of work to do.
So, as David Ignatius had to admit, you hit pay dirt when you uncovered serious abuses in the Russia investigation, including the fact that the FBI was relying on the Steele dossier and concealing the provenance of the Steele dossier, which is the Clinton campaign paying for it, from the FISA court, along with the fact that the FBI had not corroborated any of the Steele dossier at all, because it was all made up. It was conspiracy theories and fiction. So if you were advising this committee on what lines of inquiry they should pursue when it comes to uncovering Russiagate, what would you want to see?
Well, as I've said, and as you know, Aaron, because you cover this almost better than any journalist in the world, that Devin and I were able to get out 60% of the information we wanted to get out, that we discovered. There still remains some 40% that was classified or redacted, that the guys that I call government gangsters, like Rod Rosenstein at the time and Chris Wray and other bureaucrats, impeded, including Gina Haspel at the CIA, to prevent their public disclosure. And one has to ask why, because if you rewind the tape, initially they yelled at me and threatened me. And now we know they actually subpoenaed my information way back in 2017. My personal information was subpoenaed by the DOJ and FBI because they wanted leverage on Devin Nunes as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee.
But this came out only recently. This was only recently disclosed that actually at the time when you were investigating the investigators, they tried to investigate you and subpoena your records.
Yeah, Rod Rosenstein was publicly said that he threatened us. Little did I know he actually carried out that threat to investigate us. But we knew we had a mission to accomplish for the American people. And when things came like that from both sides, let's just say, for whatever your political stripes are, Democrats and Republicans were both yelling at us. We knew we were getting somewhere. And so what this committee can do is send out subpoenas to the very documents, not just related to Russiagate in that investigation that we were doing, but the tentacles that bore out of Russiagate. Because the same FBI agents and DOJ personnel that were working those investigations worked the Hillary Clinton investigations. And it's no surprise that you've now found that they are working the Hunter Biden investigation, which has its own myriad of problems. And so those people need to be brought into one place under this committee via subpoena power. But the documentation, that's where we won on Russiagate. I've always said, in 16 years of government, serving multiple presidents in national security and law enforcement, don't tell the American people what they should know. Show them. Show them the government documents. And the FBI's own arrogance has always been reliable because they will always document where their lies are and where they're cheating, like they did in the FISA abuse scandal. And I believe in the Hunter Biden probe. And I believe in other matters that John Durham's still looking at. And get the FBI reports out to the American public like we did in Russiagate. If this committee is able to subpoena those documents, and then I think we have a win. And I think some of your viewers are going to be like, so what? They'll just ignore it. They might. The cabinet secretaries can do that. I don't think it's lawful or constitutional, but here's how we broke through that threshold in Russiagate. Congress, now being led by the Republicans, have the control of the purse. What that means is they can withhold funding when congressional subpoenas go out that aren't abided by. We did it once during Russiagate, and 1,000 pages of information showed up from Rod Rosenstein and Chris Dre the next morning. So it's doable.
And you found out that it was the Clinton campaign paying for the Steele dossier after everybody involved lied about it. How? By subpoenaing bank records, right?
Yeah. Look, one of the things from my days as a former terrorism prosecutor and before that as a public defender, just investigating cases all over the world, there's a couple of things that just don't lie. Money is one of them. If you can follow the money and show the bank records, then that's it. That's how you make fraud cases. That's how you bring down literally gangsters. That's how you bring down, the mafia and corrupt. That's how you bring down Sam Bankman at FTX and things like that. You don't need witnesses. And so if this committee, the Weaponization of the Federal Government Committee, subpoenas the bank records, which I think they need to start doing, of not necessarily the DNC and whatnot as it relates to Russiagate, but starts subpoenaing the bank records of the law firms like we've talked about in the past, like the likes of Perk and Coie and Fusion GPS and the outside actors, then we are going to find the people involved, because we had to take Fusion GPS to court. If you remember this, we did subpoena them. They took us to federal court. We had to convince a federal judge that we were right, and we knew we were right because we had done our investigation properly. And then they took a knee and said, okay, let's get this out there. So money doesn't lie. And I'm telling this subcommittee, in every media appearance I get, I don't know if they're listening, please follow the money, not just the bad actors.
And Fusion GPS, that is the private firm that was hired by the Clinton campaign, which in turn hired Christopher Steele to produce the Steele dossier. Well, here's someone who was a fan of the Steele dossier, and Kash, not a fan of yours and not a fan of this new committee. His name is Adam Schiff, and this is what he said on the House floor. So Adam Schiff is not a fan of this committee, and one of the allegations that you will get is that this is a partisan witch hunt. So what do you think can be done to avoid this being turned into just a partisan campaign against Republican opponents?
Aaron, I tell them to look at you and me. I don't know your politics, but I'm guessing that we don't agree on anything or much of anything. And that's
correct.
Not the point.
Correct.
That's
yes.
not the point. The point is me as a guy who worked in government in the national security arena. I never made it political. I just said I want to follow the facts and find the truth, because as a government employee, that's the service you owe the American people. So if you and I can get along on one of the most consequential investigations of the day, then why can't the rest of America? And I think we've had a problem with credibility in the media. You've done fantastic reporting on it, as of a number of other people along the way, like Lee Smith and John Solomon and company. But I think we're starting to break through. More and more people, when I go out to give speaking engagements, are now coming up to me saying they're not Republican, they didn't vote for Trump, but wow, They were lied to for 5 years, and I heard it on shows like yours, which means that's the source where we have to go to and educate people when these documents come out, when these witnesses come forward, because now they know this guy, Adam Schiff, and he's still pictured above your shoulder there, is the biggest liar in Congress. All he had to do was help us clean up the intelligence community and the law enforcement apparatus. Instead, they chose to politicize it. And I'm the last one cheering that. That hurts America. Instead of doing the work, for instance, chasing down child sexual predators, instead of chasing down drug traffickers and bank fraudsters, we are now tied up with special committees at the FBI to investigate Hunter Biden's laptop in the election and talk to Twitter and social media and all that stuff. I mean, that's for another day, but there's only so much human capital in the government, and we've steered it off course.
Everybody, we're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles in January and February in Los Angeles. And then we're going to Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Nashville. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets and become a premium member while you're there.